The other reason I decided against doing a rocket stove maple syrup evaporator is because we kind of have unlimited wood here. The benefits of the rocket stove just don't exist for us. I think you could tie this into sort of a broader criticism of permaculture in general. So here's what I came up with for our maple syrup evaporator. So first we have this big truck rim. It's set up on some bricks to keep the bottom off the ground and let air come in underneath. This is a 22.5-inch rim, which is perfect to fit our barrel topper. So we made this to fit right on top. It doesn't have any welding. I made this whole thing with 50 bucks and a grinder and a Sawzall. So first I shortened the barrel so the pan would sit closer to the flames. I cut a hole out of the top for the pan to sink down even further. I attached this chimney to the back just by cutting and bending out the end of the 90-degree elbow. And I made this little door that slides so that you can feed it while the pan's on. To make that door, I cut out a shape like this. So I left a tab attached to here. That's this. I bent the tab out and I used a grinder to cut along this piece. This is actually the piece that I cut out of the top. And I bent it, cut a hole out of it, cut the slit with the grinder, and then put this angle so I could push it with a stick when this gets really hot. So today we gotta burn this. To burn off all the paint and chemicals that might have come with this barrel and this rim. So I really thought about doing a rocket stove maple syrup evaporator. I dug in deep into the books and it just didn't work out. There's a lot of constraints actually on rocket stoves that you don't really think about. Where the heat comes out of the top of the riser, you really need to minimize the amount of space for that the rising hot air has to expand once it gets to the top of the riser. So what that means is that you have to get your pot really close to the top of the riser. And that's gonna restrict your flow and it can cause a backdraft. So for that reason, you're gonna need a really tall riser. For a 6-inch burn chamber, like similar size to this chimney, you're gonna need like a 2 or 3 foot long riser. And that's just to put the pan on top of it. But you really want to actually sink the pan deep and trap that hot air around in something like this barrel. Of course, that's going to further complicate your setup because it's going to choke the flow of the air even more and introduce another opportunity for a backdraft. At that point, you're not really designing a rocket stove anymore. You're designing a rocket mass heater, and it gets pretty complicated. And the efficiency that we talk about when we talk about a rocket mass heater really happens on the heating side. It's really great for heating your house, but and keeping a pot of water hot, but it doesn't really transfer a lot of that energy into the pot, which is of course what we're trying to do here. The other reason I decided against doing a rocket stove maple syrup evaporator is because we kind of have unlimited wood here. Sort of all the advantages of those rocket stoves disappear when you could put the effort that you would take towards building something complicated towards just chopping a bit more wood. We have a pine stand that needs to be cleared, and the rest of our forest has been historically ash and elm, which now are standing deadwood. So the benefits of the rocket stove just don't exist for us. I think you could tie this into sort of a broader criticism of permaculture in general. A lot of these really cool, creative concepts, and don't get me wrong, rocket stoves are awesome, but they're not applicable for me. I can think of some more examples too, like you don't have a snail problem, you have a duck problem, a duck deficiency. I like the train of thought. I like that you're considering a pest as a potential yield, but we're we're doing some conservation work on this land. So instead of thinking about how I can extract more yield from the land, I want to think about who's supposed to be eating all those snails. Is there some bird that I can accommodate better and make some better habitat for? But again, by the way, I love these concepts. These blew me away the first time I heard about them. The chickens eating through the pests and the cow poo. Oh, awesome, so cool. But my problem with it is I watched a Richard Perkins episode, and he says that he doesn't really hardly make any money off the chickens. He mostly just likes them for the environmental benefit. Well, I think that our thinking is skewed towards yield still, and we can consider who's supposed to be eating the pests out of our cow poo. Surely there's some animal that we can accommodate to make sure that pest cycle is naturally broken. Well, it looks like our fire's starting to die down. I better go get another load of sticks and quit yapping. But come on back in March and we'll boil some sap and see how efficient this design really is.